A couple things from this week. I thought that it's another good week of practice, an intense week. I thought the guys really were focused, attentive to the details, have practiced hard, but yet good energy. I think there's a good amount of energy amongst the team. I think that they're recognizing that our coaches are going to continue to be demanding of things that we're trying to work on and get better at, regardless if we won or lost or whatever happened the week before. And I think the players have responded to that style and have come out and practiced really well again. And I've been proud of them. This is kind of 3 weeks now of really laying a foundation of the way we want to work day in and day out throughout the week to get ourselves prepared to perform, which we're going to need to do. We're playing a very good opponent Saturday on the road, and it's going to take a real kind of group effort. It's going to take all three phases dialed into the plan, all three phases playing a physical brand of football with really good positive energy. So looking forward to that. I would say just a reminder, I touched on it last night. I know it's airing today, the show, but Troy O'Meary's having season-ending surgery today. We'll do everything in our power to get him healthy and get him back going on the field and get him rolling for the 2022 season.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah,
Kirk, start us off.
Yes, Steve. I was curious on your general philosophy on using spies on quarterbacks that are big running threats, and is Max the type of guy that you need a spy on?
I think there's at times for sure that you need him, Kurt. Max is a really gritty player, and that's a term of endearment. I don't mean to say that lightly. I mean to say that he finds a way to make plays, whether that's through the air, with his legs, extending plays, making throws, using his legs to run, third down, red area. So I think there's times when you utilize the spy. I think there's other times you got to count on the pass rush to be in discipline to stay in their lane, so there is nowhere for him to run. But we definitely need to be aware of him because he will try to find a way to get a first down, to extend drives, and then ultimately score points.
Ryan, you're up.
Steve, I wanted to ask you about preparedness, because this is something that is definitely popping up with multiple players. Casey talked about film study. Josh talked about film study. And I want to ask you, how do you think these guys are they good at that? And is that it's a not talked about topic, but is that something you have to teach players, is how to study film?
Yeah, it is. We really try to. And, it's kind of like whatever your system is, you have your own way of watching the tape and what you're looking for so that you're watching it correctly, because you can spend hours upon hours just watching tape. But if you're not looking for specific things and cues and tips and things, it's not really going to help you, so we try to guide the players in a way that, this is what you should be looking for, because this may, give you a tip on what route they're running, or, what pressure they're going to run, or, what that coverage might be in the back end, how they may play a specific play, or how they may try to attack a certain front in the running game. So I think that's more the key. It's, can we teach them to prepare in a way that is time efficient for them, B, where they feel like they're getting quality information, so that meetings make more sense when they're with us as coaches, and then games make more sense when it presents itself. But I do think there's a little bit of an art to it. And I think our guys, over the past, 5 weeks or so have gradually continued to improve in that area. And I think ultimately that has lent itself to a little better practice habits, and then obviously a little better performance on game day.
Anwar, you're up.
Hey, Coach. One quick one, and then my question. Joshua Moore, is there anything to him? Is he injured? Is he going to be ready to go this weekend? And then I have just a question about your conversations with Casey towards the end of the week when you say you guys decide what plays you want to run or not want to run, what you feel comfortable with. Can you just give us an idea of those conversations, kind of piggybacking off of Brian's talking about those conversations and how you guys figure out what will work and what doesn't work?
Yeah, Josh is good to go. As far as Casey, whether it be Casey, Hudson, Matt Ryan, Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, it's kind of been the same format. We meet, we put a game plan together early in the week, a base game plan, third down game plan, red area game plan. And then come Friday night, I always like to ask the quarterbacks, what do they like? I think that that's important, that they feel good about the things that we're doing. I generally tend not to tell them what I like at that moment because I don't want my opinion to skew how they feel. I really want their honest opinion on what they like in specific areas and specific times in the game. And then I make note of that. And that I ask both guys. I always ask the starter and I always ask the backup, and I always note it. And then it gives me a chance to really kind of finalize, what I would like to call in the specific situations that may come up. And there's a lot of times when I agree with what they like, and that's what we go with. There's other times when, what they like might be the second call that I'm probably going to make. And then I let that be known, the day of the game. Hey, this is what we're going to call the first time through, second time through. This is what we're going to get to. There's no guarantees because every game takes on a life of its own. But I do think it's important to get their input on where their comfort level is with the game plan.
Ed Clements, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, what is the best thing about a Gary Patterson coached football team? What's his best quality as a head football coach, and what do you expect to see on Saturday from Patterson, especially on the defensive side?
I think his teams notoriously play really hard. I think that, when you just watch the way they play, one game always stands out to me when I think of Gary Patterson I believe it was the Alamo Bowl when Oregon had a big lead. And I think a lot of teams might have folded their tent in that game. And that TCU team continued to fight, continued to battle. And I think went on to win that game in overtime. And that game has always kind of just stood out to me. And I didn't know Gary I might've met him a few times prior to that. And I had no skin in that game. I was just happened to be watching it. And I just thought that was really impressive in the way that they continued to battle and compete and fought their way back into the game and ultimately won the game. But all that being said, I think Gary is a very good schematic coach. I think they tax you in all three phases. They're going to challenge you. They're going to try to take away the things that you do well. They're going to challenge you on where he thinks there's weaknesses in your team. And they stress you that way. So it's one thing that I think they play hard, and two, I think they're really schematically sound.
Sam Khan, go ahead.
Hey, Steve, kind of a big picture question. As time has passed over the last 5, 10, 15 years, quarterbacks have played a lot earlier than they would have maybe over time. I'm curious, how is you as a coach figure out when a young quarterback who hasn't played, who hasn't started, when he's ready? And also, do you feel like that there are some detriments to playing a guy early, just generally speaking?
I think there's a lot of detriments to playing a guy early. You have to be careful not to bruise the psyche too much. My idea is, whenever a quarterback's time to play for us, I want him to play great. I don't want him to survive. I don't want him to play good. I want him to play great. And for some guys, that's very early in their career. For some guys, it may take 4 years. Mark Sanchez, when he was with us, we had John David Booty, and there was a lot of people thought Mark was more talented. John David remained the starter, went on and got drafted in the NFL. Mark Sanchez was a 1-year starter, ended up being the 5th pick of the draft and made a lot of money and had a good pro career, went to a couple, I think it was AFC championship games his first 2 years. And now he's on TV and doing all that kind of good stuff. Mac Jones, another example, guy who waited his 3 years for his opportunity to play. And when he played great. There's been other guys that have played earlier and maybe been more ready to play earlier in their career and that have gotten that opportunity. So all that being said, for us in our system, the investment we make in the quarterback on a daily basis, I just want to make sure when his opportunity is there that we put him in the best position for them to play great, whether it's through preparation, whether it's through skill development, whether it's through scheme, whether it's through game planning. You want to make sure when that guy takes the field, he's ready to go. So I recognize the idea that a lot of people are playing quarterbacks earlier in their careers, whether that's in their high school career, a lot more freshmen play, in their college career, a lot more true freshmen and freshmen are playing. And then even in the NFL, I mean, we're seeing more rookie quarterbacks start now than ever. The issue I have is, I'm watching the NFL. I don't see any rookie quarterback playing very good. And that's the hard part. You put them out there and you're trusting, your organization or your program, it's kind of in their hands. When they don't play well, it's tough, and it's tough on them. It's tough on your team. And I think that's always a concern of, what does it do to the psyche moving forward, not only in that season, but for seasons to come.
Cedric Golden, go ahead.
Hey, Steve, you mentioned the coaching staff being more demanding this week. I'm interested to know how tough of an opponent is complacency when you're trying to build a culture?
I think it can be very tough, especially when you think you've arrived or you think that what I've done is good enough. We're in a unique situation where we've got so much unfinished business. We've got so much to go out and prove. We have so much respect that we need to earn. Because I really believe this. I think right now when we take the field, a lot of our opponents do not respect us. And so we have to earn their respect, and we earn their respect in our style of play, in our execution, in our physicality. And, respect is earned. It's not given. And right now, I don't feel that we do have a great deal of respect. So we got to go earn it. And to do that, we have to practice and perform on a daily basis in a manner and such that prepares us to do that come game day. And that's where our focus is. So complacency really is kind of left at the front door as it pertains to our building. We've got no room to be complacent with anything that we're doing right now.
Chip Brown, go ahead.
Steve, Casey said that when he heard you got the job, he reached out to Chris Del Conte to get your number and call you. Can you tell us what his, what that call was like or what he said, and how much true option is TCU running?
It was a real, I think it was more of just a connection piece. I think Casey has been in enough of the quarterback circles and been around enough guys that I've been connected to that it was more of just getting connected. He was excited about the opportunity, and I was excited to work with him. And so that was kind of the gist of the call. The option from TCU, I think, comes when they think it's effective and when they think they need it. And so, it definitely is part of the package. It doesn't always show itself, but it's definitely something that they can do and that they do well. And again, I think a lot of that is because of the experience at the quarterback position. They trust Max with the decision making.
Got time for two last ones. Cole, go ahead.
Steve, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on going up against Zach Evans. He's a guy who can get very small in between the trenches, but have that home run speed in the middle of the open field. Just what have you seen from him on film and his ability to be able to be a vertical threat as well in the passing game?
Well, he's a dynamic player for sure. I actually recruited him pretty hard coming out of high school. I think he kind of had like most freshmen, that transition year last season. He really looks like he's playing kind of like the player that we saw in high school. He's a dynamic runner. He's got the breakaway speed and the elusiveness, but yet he's definitely a factor in the passing game. And when he gets in the open field and he has space, he can be a problem. And so we've got to do a great job of, leveraging the ball when he has it. We got to make sure that we're getting hats to the football. And we've got to try to minimize the space in which he operates in, because when he has it, he's a tall task.
Jeff Howe, go ahead.
Sark, I know you said after the Texas Tech game you weren't happy that the ball got over the secondary's head at points in the game. I was just wondering, this week in practice, what did the defensive staff emphasize to kind of fix that? And did you feel, going back watching on tape, was it more of a technique issue on defending some of those deep balls that can get cleaned up?
I think it's like anything with us. We get what we emphasize, and for the most part, that's just in coaching in general. When you emphasize something and you work on it, generally you get those things fixed. And so that's been a big point of emphasis for us this week. Clearly TCU has got a dynamic receiving core. They got big wideouts on the outside, got speed in the slot. So our awareness, our alerts need to be up. When they do take their shots, they're a very aggressive team. So it's twofold. It was one, coming off of last week's game of something that we needed to fix. Two, our next opponent, that is something that they do. And we have to expect the expected. They're going to take their shots, and we got to go attack the ball and make our plays. Quite frankly, I thought it was just a lack of mental intensity last Saturday, thinking that, hey, we're good, we can relax, that we got the game in hand. And next thing you know, you have a half a second moment of lack of mental intensity, and the ball gets caught on you. So we got to keep our mental intensity, our mental focus, staying locked in. The scoreboard doesn't dictate how we play, and every play has a life of its own, and we've got to do our job in those moments and execute our calls.
Got time for one last one. Roger, you're up.
Sark, is that also the mental part, that road mentality and getting off to a good start? And leaning on your leaders to make sure you guys are ready to go from the jump?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to last week. We're very comfortable playing at 11 a.m. We're a morning practice team. So I don't think the kickoff time should be much of an issue. Clearly, you can stack the potential distractions for this game. 11 a.m. kick, potential weather, road game, playing an opponent we're allegedly not supposed to play good against. So all those things could become distractions for us. We need to stay focused on the task at hand, have a real level of a commitment and accountability to one another, and making sure that we're going into this game with the right mindset, that it's going to be a 4-quarter, 60-minute game. That's going to be a physical one. That's going to take execution, not only from the first snap, but all the way until the last snap. Ideally, I would love for us to come out and play great early in the game. But as I mentioned, this team has a history of, I've watched them come back from I think it was more than a 30-point deficit to come back in the game. And so even if we are fortunate enough to get a lead in this game, we got to make sure that we stay committed to the cause, keep our mental intensity, and continue to play.